We're surrounded by data every single day. It's everywhere. But how do you actually turn all that noise into something that makes sense? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. Let's dive in and see how we can transform a confusing mess of numbers into a clear, compelling story. Okay, just take a look at this. We're starting with 70 raw data points. We've got 10.2, 13.6, 9.1. It's just a jumble, right? If I asked you to tell me the trend or, find the most common value, you'd probably have to stare at it for a long time. This is a classic case of information overload. And that is the core problem we're tackling. When data is just thrown at you like this, it's not just unhelpful, it's a barrier. It's basically a wall of numbers that's hiding the very insights we're looking for. So our mission today, it's to break down that wall. So how do we do it? We start by forging a little order out of all that chaos. And our first, most powerful tool for this is something called a grouped frequency distribution. Now, that might sound super complicated, but trust me, it's really just a smart, systematic way of sorting data. It all boils down to 3 pretty logical steps. First, we find the range of our data. That's just the highest value minus the lowest value. Simple. Then we decide how many groups, or classes as they're called, we want to sort the data into. And finally, we just calculate how wide each of those groups needs to be. That's it. Simple as that. And here's what you get when you do that. This table right here, this is our blueprint for understanding. We've taken those 70 random numbers and neatly organized them into 7 distinct groups. We can see the tallies and the frequency, which is really just a count of how many numbers fall into each bucket, and for the very first time, a pattern is starting to emerge. A table is great, don't get me wrong, but a picture is often so much better. So now, let's turn that frequency table into our first real visualization, a graph called a histogram. We're basically going to use our data as building blocks. So, what exactly is a histogram? Think of it like a bar chart, but the bars are all right next to each other, no gaps. Each bar represents one of the groups from our table, and how tall that bar is tells you how many data points fell into that group. It's that simple. And voila, here is our histogram. The story becomes instantly clear. You don't have to go hunting for the pattern anymore, do you? Your eyes are immediately drawn to that tallest bar right there in the middle. We can see at a single glance that most of our data points are clustered in that 11 to 12.49 range. The chaos is officially starting to recede. Those blocks give us some great structure, but what if we want to see the flow, the overall trend of the data? For that, we can connect the dots and create curves that tell a more, continuous story. To create our next visual, it's actually really easy. We just take the midpoint at the very top of each bar in our histogram and connect them with straight lines. This creates what's called a frequency polygon. It's the exact same data, just shown as a line graph, which really emphasizes the rise and fall of the frequencies. Okay, now if we take that polygon with all its sharp angles and just smooth out the lines, we get this, a frequency curve. This gives us this beautiful, generalized sense of the data's distribution. It's less about the exact count in each little bucket and more about the overall shape, the bigger picture of the data as a whole. So we've seen where the data clusters, but what if we want to ask a different kind of question? For instance, how many data points are less than a certain value, or how many are more than that? This question leads us right to our final type of graph. This is called an Ogive, another one of those fun statistics words, and it's a cumulative frequency graph. The curve on top that rises from left to right, that's our less than curve. It starts at 0 and shows the running total as we go. The curve on the bottom does the opposite. That's the more than curve. It starts at our total count of 70 and falls, showing how many values are left. Together, they tell 2 sides of the same cumulative story. So let's just take a step back and appreciate this journey for a second. We started with a confusing mess, a literal wall of numbers, and step by step, we made that data speak clearly. We've managed to turn raw numbers into actual knowledge. I mean, this is the transformation right here. We went from a wall of raw, chaotic numbers to a set of clear, insightful graphs. We replaced complete confusion with actual understanding, and we found the patterns that were hidden in the data all along. That's the real power of visualization. At the end of the day, being able to organize and visualize data isn't just a skill for statisticians. It's a fundamental skill for making sense of the world. And now you have the basic tools to turn chaos into clarity. So the only question left is, what story is hidden in the data that's all around you?